So I woke up in the middle of the night thinking of how in the space of a few short months I've changed. Tower moments, quantum leaps. I am calmer, quieter, less performative. I don't want to give just help. I want to enjoy my life, to embody how to live, to shine kind of like a flower, simply without artifice, like a dress in a Spanish shop. I woke up in the middle of the night and I often wake up in the middle of the night and I was thinking, it's a good time for thinking. And above my bed, I have a picture I took in Spain of a beautiful Spanish dress. And it just made me think of like that time, that warmth, that simplicity of walking the streets, taking pictures. Anyways, I love that picture. It's got a lot of warmth in it. And that got me to thinking of how I just am enjoying taking pictures for me. Anyways, I want to, and it made me think also about the podcast and about how when I opened the podcast, it was a different vibe. And now my vibe is different. It's kind of like the Spanish dress. Anyways, that got me thinking maybe I want to change. I started thinking about how I had changed the cover for my Leeça Podcast, the Facebook page, into warmer, kind of softer colors. And then I was talking to ChatGPT and going, maybe I should change the vibe of the logo for the Leeça Podcast. Anyways, I got to thinking about how I wanted to do things a little differently. I've changed. So I've learned that, I've learned a lot in the last couple of months, and that's, I guess, what I wanted to talk about here. I want to, and I am, simply in a mode of just appreciating life right now, simply. I think I used to be like everybody else, sharing a lot outside of myself. So I wanted to show people the beauty of the world. I would take pictures of everything around me and try to show people what I was seeing. And now I'm just enjoying doing it for myself. Maybe I was looking outside of myself for validation. Maybe. Really, though, I felt like I always lived in a sort of solitude, and it was a way of connecting with the larger world, right? Sharing photos and writing, and then it just became very, very noisy. And I think now, after this big move, and that's what I'm going to talk about this morning, as I was journaling, I woke up and I'm like, okay, I'm going to write something different. Anyways, now I'm learning to sink into my own self. My own light nourishes me more and more. And the nourishment also comes from the universe. When I write, I have this dialogue with the universe, and that nourishes me. I'm nourished by other things too, like by a kid who this week I could see was super excited about opening his own business. I love that. I love seeing kids becoming excited about things in their own lives. I'm nourished. I was writing that this morning in my journal, that I'm nourished about. Lately, I've been making handmade presents for my daughters and food for my friends. I'm nourished by late fall walks and the sounds of children laughing in the schoolyard. I'm nourished by the small gatherings of folks in the dog park who know the dog's owners by the dog's name, right? So like I'm Buddy's mom. I'm nourished by when I take pictures of the little things in my house. I'm not necessarily sharing much of it online, but I'm nourished by the actual noticing and taking pictures and collecting and doing art. So like, for example, there's a mirror in my living room and the bookcase is reflected in the mirror yesterday. I thought, wow, what a cool kind of reflection. So I took a picture of it. I didn't share it. Every day I light candles, and lately I've been making my own candles, and I like that. I especially like listening to silence. Having lived in an apartment for the last couple of years, there were times when it was very chaotic outside of my apartment, and that was just a little disturbing. Now I enjoy the silence. I'm nourished by cars driving down the streets. Last night on my way home from school, it was raining. It's getting dark earlier. And, the cars coming down the street with the lights, and then there's the rain on the street. And I thought, oh, that's cool. And I took a picture, and I didn't share it, but I thought that was kind of cool. I'm nourished by the trust. Oh, a boy came to see me in class the other day, and he stayed after class, and we talked at lunch. And he shared with me how he had just lived through heartbreak. And it was probably his first major heartbreak, and we had a good talk about that. And I thought, wow, that took a lot of trust to tell me this story, and I was really touched by that. I'm nourished by simple things like acts of community. So this weekend I attended a friend's mom's funeral. She was 95, I think, when she died. So she had lived a long life, full of ups and downs, but she was so recognized by the people who were there to live this moment with her. And with each other, right? And they sang, the grandchildren sang, they played the violin. It was a very beautiful and touching ceremony. A life well lived and well recognized at the end of her life. And those are community events that I have the honor of attending, but a lot of people don't gather anymore for those big events, especially since she was 95, and a lot of her people might have gone past before then, right? It was lovely. I'm nourished by countless small moments of humanity. I wrote that in my journal. I am nourished by countless small moments of humanity. I am in a receiving mode. I'm in stillness after a few months of unexpected, crazy upheaval. So in the summer, I had written 37 scripts, and I had done them carefully. I had researched them. I wanted them to be pertinent. I wanted them to speak to topics that I was worried about. I was being very, very careful because I didn't want to, I wanted to be a bridge. I didn't want to say stuff that might set people off. I was worried that somehow, somebody needs to say something to try to bridge the gap between us. And I thought, oh, this is your responsibility. If you have to use your voice, if you write, you should use your voice. Think of all of the big, the important people out there, using their voice. And I thought that had to be me. And so I wrote 37 scripts, and with the full intention of going at it one a week. Let's go, It is a concern, obviously. Right? Threats to our democracy, a lack of understanding I see happening between people, and it's just the gap is somehow widening, polarized views, right? Fed by leaders who have their own agendas. And that really concerns me. Of course it does. And I'm not saying I won't talk about those things in the next podcast at some point, but when I reread, I went in the middle of the night, I'm looking at the Spanish dress, and then I opened up my scripts, and it's nighttime, but I get a lot done at night sometimes. Anyways, I open up the script, and I'm looking at that, and I'm thinking, does that reflect the words that I wrote this summer for the next podcast I had planned, episode 3? Do they reflect where I'm at in my head right now? And do I need to be in that mode of a performative mode, right? I'm doing this thing, every week, right? I was convinced in the summer that I needed to do something, to say something. I had to do something. When your house is on fire, you have to leave with your kids, you have to do something, right? So I was convinced I had to do that. And then I had a personal tower moment, right? You could look at it as a tower moment. I'll call it a tower moment, but it could also be seen as a quantum leap. Quantum leap into the unknown. So sometimes that happens. We could also call them curveballs. Maybe the universe likes to throw us some curveballs. So that's what I'm going to talk about next. Something that happens suddenly, and it creates massive stress and anxiety. In my case, I got back from my holidays middle of August, just before my birthday, and just before I was supposed to start my podcast, and then also just before school. And my landlord at the time calls me and says, Leeça, I'm selling the apartment, right? And then, I had moved from the island to the city to be close to school, in part because of that apartment, because it was so nice and it's close to school. And that was the third move. I would have to move the third time in 5 years. I have a lot of stuff. I give away about half my stuff from the island when I move from the house to the apartment. And then I'm like, I've got a dog and a cat, and where am I going to find a place that's close to school and that is suitable for all of us and that has a parking and, well, anyways, a lot of stress. Yeah. And right before the beginning of school. So in those tower moments, one tends to think, oh no, it's so much work, right? And then also, how am I going to adapt to this? And is it going to work out? We don't know, right? Sometimes things can go downwards for a while before they work out. We don't know. So upheaval often brings like a massive amount of uncertainty, right? What happens when we take risks? Even the ones that we decide, right? We decide this is a risk I'm going to take. It's terrifying, but when it's thrust upon us, it's even harder, right? Unexpected loss. So when you lose your job, or you get divorced, or you have heartbreak, a health scare, or someone dies, it's so hard. It's so hard. It is life defining, really. Sometimes there just doesn't seem to be any kind of good coming from them. In the moment, you certainly don't feel like anything good is going to come from it. You don't know, but it's certainly, especially in those tower moments, the hard ones, you don't feel like anything good is going to happen. Really, though, I've come to understand that change, when it does happen, evolves us. If, and especially if, sometimes it'll evolve us whether we like it or not, but it'll evolve us especially if we choose to see it through that lens. And you choose to accept it. You go, okay, I've been through enough changes in my life. I know that it'll be okay. This is happening so that I can evolve. I'm going to grow from this experience. Because either way, if you look at it negatively and you say, I can't take this, is crazy, how's that going to help, right? How's it going to help you? It's not going to help. So the only way of really looking at it productively is to say, this change is meant to happen. I've been brought here on this earth to learn stuff, and I'm going to learn, and this is going to happen, and we're going to evolve from this, we're going to adapt, and it'll be okay. It reminds me of a student who, when I was going through massive sadness, and I was going through a crumbling relationship when I was married, I was getting divorced, a student, an older student, she was like, Miss, why are you sad? It's really hard to keep a poker face when you're teaching sometimes and you're going through massive life changes. We're all human, right? So one day I looked sad, and I said, well, I'm going through a hard time. She put Post-its around my classroom everywhere, in my books everywhere, saying, it will be fine. It will be fine. It will be fine. And at one point, even years later, I opened a book and I found a Post-it that said, it will be fine. It'll be okay. And it was a lovely moment, right? Obviously, you're not going to tell your whole life story to a kid, but just that little gesture was so sweet. Anyways, so yeah. Jasmine came over the other day. We had dinner, and she said, Mom, I've not seen you so grounded in so long. This place is going to be healing for you. And she's right. She's right. Every place has brought me something different, and this place feels so good. It feels so good. The house is beautiful. It's got huge, beautiful windows. I have a little art studio, and man, I have a little backyard. That is the best. But this shift to this house is bigger than that, I think. It's about saying no, right? I wrote that. I'm reading you my little notes here, and I'm going along, and I'm also randomly adding bits. This shift is bigger than that. It's about saying no to a guest room, right? I said no to a guest. Jasmine's like, look, it's a small little tiny, it's a small guest room. It has patio doors leading to the outside. And I thought, well, if I put a bed in there, I won't have an art space and there won't be really much room to go in and out outside. So she's like, no, you can create an art space. It's okay. You're allowed to do that. And people can sleep on the couch and they can sleep on the floor and it's fine. On a mattress, of course. So it's about recognizing that I didn't want to move. Okay. I did not want to move. I had decided, no, you're not going to move again. Even though the apartment's not perfect, it's really beautiful and you're close to school and it's a lot of work to move and, where are you going to move? And I was not going to move. I even though I missed having access to an outdoor space. So I had decided to renew my lease in January because I didn't want the upheaval, right? 3 moves in 5 years, it's a lot. And then the universe made it happen. So in that, I'm just so grateful. Now, in the moment, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. But now I'm so grateful. And I said to Jasmine that I really do believe that, I've said this before, but I believe that people are like plants and each person is like a plant and they need different conditions to thrive, right? And you can survive in all kinds of places, but to thrive, it's helpful to live in a place that feels more like you. So if you're like a jungly plant, well, then you should live in a humid green space. If you need mountains and cool air, that's where ideally you would find yourself. If you are, you love the ocean, ideally you'd live near the ocean. I love the ocean. I love Newfoundland. I grew up in Plantagenet, in the area of Plantagenet and Bourget and, the Francophone community. I've spoken about that before. But we outgrow places too. And I had always thought when I was a kid that I'd be a city person. But then I lived in the city in the apartment and I felt a bit confined in the apartment. I didn't feel truly myself. I was missing a space. I made the best of it. We survive and we can kind of go along with things and adapt. But when you do find a place that kind of fits more with who you are, it feels like you can breathe again. And I know that my daughters also feel the same way. Victoria sent me a picture of, she was at Mad Rocks in Newfoundland on the cliffs with the ocean, and she just feels good in Newfoundland. She fits well with the people of Newfoundland. And so does Jess. And so I think that we're all like that. Some people need like more of the anonymous big city life. I'm not meant for like high-rise buildings, and I like a sense of community, But I have lived in a very, very remote area too, and I missed being around people and culture and art and stimuli. So, I've changed places a few times, and I think I've changed places, and every time I've changed places, it's because I've grown out of them. It's like trying to fit into the wrong kinds of clothes, So here I am, Here I am. Now, let me see what else I had written. I love taking care of an old house. When I was a child, I lived in a log cabin, quirky place, and then my parents bought and renovated houses, and one of them was a very old house. So I'm used to old houses. I like houses that have character. I don't care if I own it, right? I love the house on the island for that reason. This one, I'm kind of glad I don't own it because I can just take care of it and make her feel pretty, right? This one has like these really cool push buttons for the lights. It has its own little basement to store stuff. That's amazing. It has these big old windows. Oh man, they needed some cleaning. And there's chandeliers as well. It has these wood walls that I'm like thinking of oiling with tung oil. Very old wiring. So I washed and I cleaned and I And I put up some curtains, and I scrubbed the mosaic tiles in the bathroom and the ceramic tub, and I unblocked the sink. I'm proud of myself for doing all the work here. You know, it's an old house, so like there are neighbors upstairs, but they have their own entrance. So I have to call upstairs when I want to have the heat adjusted. It's got the water heaters. It's really cool. I have my own entrance. I told my landlord that I'm going to stay here until I'm 95 if I can. Of course, like we never know, right? Even when we might not want to change, life says, okay, you've grown out of this chapter. It's time for something new. Time to move on. And I find, that if I resist, right, the universe will give you a few little nudges, little small tower moments, and then those little small tower moments are like little indications. Okay, it's time to change. And if you don't listen, then it'll give you a big tower moment, and it'll force you to change. It'll push you out of the nest, and so that was the way it was for my move from Plantagenet. Some big tower moments came. The clear cutting, my brother got sick, big things happened, the pandemic, and then I quit my job and all of these things. Like those were moments where, there's a rainbow right outside my window. There's a rainbow. It was lightly raining, and now there's a rainbow right outside my window. How cool is that? And there's a Canadian flag. I love sitting in my living room and watching the cars pass by. I was worried about the traffic and the noise, and it's honestly, I've gotten used to it. I don't even hear it anymore. But across from me, there's a little park, and there's a Canadian flag, and there's a rainbow right now, right out of my window. Anyways, so that's how it was from Plantagenet. When I left Plantagenet, it was because of the big tower moment. And then you look back at the person that you were just even a few months ago, and you realize that you don't fit that person's views anymore, right? So that's what happened in the middle of the night when I opened up my script for the podcast, and I was reading the next script that I thought I was going to do, and it was, I had entitled it Dancing on Shards. So like in those moments of high pain, you can still find joy. That's always been my thing, right? Kind of like the Lebanese do. They celebrate despite huge challenges. It was a sharper kind of text. It was a talk about how when we've had traumatic moments, we learn to dance despite the sadness. And that's true. But right now, I am more in a mode of stillness and appreciation and contemplation. So I'm not just writing, I'm doing some photography, I'm doing some art, I'm filling my well. I am restarting some routines, simple ones like working out, eating well, drinking less, taking vitamins, going to bed early, reading a little bit, staying in touch with friends and family, nothing flashy. And when I created the podcast, I went about it like in my usual way, right? Like head on, organized, very perfectionistic, like I would when I would start a new business. Let's market this. Let's do it properly. You know, I was very, very focused. And then because of the tower moment, I had produced a few of the podcasts, but then now my mood has entirely changed. I'm working on other projects. I'm doing some artistic projects. I'm wanting to sew again. I want to do some painting. And then I'm also creating a website, which I had talked about a little bit, called the Leeça Space. And that's going to be fun. It's going to be like a creative hub for all of these things. And it'll be a space where I can put the writing for the podcast. I can put other types of writing. I can put my musings. I can have a little shop. I can put some art on there. So that's kind of what I'm doing in the background. And I've decided that my podcast, this one that I'm doing right now, is just simply going to be a reflection of where I'm at now. Kind of like an out loud, very informal journal, if you will. I'm not going to time it. I'm not going to give you one every week. I'm going to put pressure on myself to make it perfect. There'll be little updates. It won't be essay-like. It won't be research-based. Maybe I'll pick up a book once in a while and read a quote or something, depending. But I've changed my mind. I've changed my mind. I think we're all tired of the noise, and maybe we just need to create a cozy interior and inside space. Interior, but inside ourselves spaces where we can keep our own light on. I think that's so important. And I guess, if we all did that, we'd just be a little bit happier. And maybe then we would be more understanding of other people. I don't know. In any case, that's what I am thinking about. And I'm slowly learning that if you don't nourish yourself, you will have nothing to give, right? And after 2 months of crazy busy, I was depleted and needed to rest. And that's what I've been doing. Excuse me, and I've been enjoying it. So today, my advice is do something you love just for you. Take a few moments, rub your feet, play a song you like, pet your dog, take a walk, go to bed early, drink lots of water, say hello to yourself in the mirror. We're all very hard on ourselves. Get reacquainted with who you are now. And I think another piece of advice would be don't be afraid of changing and stepping into a new you. Even if it's 2 months later, people will adjust. What's the point in staying shackled inside an old role if that's not who you are anymore? What is the point in that? How is that helpful to anybody? If we stay inside ourselves in a role that we're not feeling good in anymore, we'll just become resentful. We won't be happy. We won't be able to give, even if we want to give. So that's the thing about empathetic people, right? Is if you're filled with empathy and you want to help and you want to give, and teachers and parents and all kinds of adults, men, women, we're all, right? We're here to learn and to grow, but we're also here to be a flower, to be ourselves, right? A bird sings just because it loves to sing. A kid plays and dances and all that just because it's fun to do it. And I think we've become very serious and goal-oriented and all that, including me. First one to say that, including me, where we just go. And we need to learn to just honor ourselves and where we are. And if we need to change, we change. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to continue just giving you little pieces of me here and there. And I'll keep you updated. So be well. And until next time, much love and light. Take care. Bye.